Welcome to the Pocketnow Weekly pre-show, everyone. Viewers, listeners, just give us about 30 seconds to get our act together here, and we will be ready to go.
Just one note, Michael.
Yes.
My audio recording might start about a second before yours. I thought we were
That's
starting
fine.
on
No,
one.
we can line
I'm
those
about
up.
2 seconds off. Yeah.
No problem. You know, odds are one of us is going to lose power anyway, or somebody's house is going to fall down. We're just going to lose all of it. So it's all right. It's okay.
Yeah.
Whew. All right, guys, we are set here. We got some viewers in the room. Welcome, early birds. I am ready to go. Stephen, Taylor, ready to hit this?
Ready as ever be.
Sounds good to me.
Mm-hmm.
Here comes the fun, I think. 3, 2. Galaxy S5 Prime, Galaxy S5 LTE-A, Galaxy S5 Supreme. Whatever you call it, we've spent the week getting to know Samsung's polarizing new flagship, and we know you've got questions. But there's more to life than Samsung, so we're mixing in a whole lot more mobile tech talk. We'll cover HTC's newest financials, Motorola's drool-worthy Moto 360 promises, and the next rumored devices from the land of Lumia, as well as your listener mail. If that sounds like way too much to squeeze into one podcast, well, as Billy Joel says, for all I know, you may be right. It's all ahead on episode 103 of the Pocketnow Weekly, the once-a-week podcast from Pocketnow, where we discuss news and opinion from the world of smartphones, tablets, wearables, and other gadgets you wished existed when you were a kid. From Boston, Massachusetts, I'm your host, Michael Fisher, editorial director at Pocketnow, and possibly the world's most eager Lumia 1520 user this week. Talk more about that later. Your first officer today is that lovable curmudgeon of the Deep South, the John C. Dvorak of the Pocketnow Weekly, senior editor Taylor Martin. Welcome back, sir.
Hello. And as soon as you said curmudgeon, I knew exactly who you were talking about.
You perked right up, and you knew that you were being addressed.
And I muted and unmuted myself about 8 times.
I'm glad you did. Also joining us, freshly equipped with a new audio rig that hopefully won't make us want to tear our ears out, Chief News Editor Stephen Shank. Hi, Silky Tones.
Hey, how are you doing, Michael? It was much better this week than I have in weeks. It's really good.
I can't see you, so I don't know if you're trolling me or not. Are you trolling me?
No, I think we're good to go here. It's actually coming through clearly. You can see all the pores on my face. Hopefully, this is going to be a brave new day for.
You look good, man. You look good.
Did you
I want to
use some
say
deep cleansing face wash before this?
microbeads.
I certainly do. Yeah, I do the back of the hand oil wipe on the forehead before I go on the air. That's the ticket, Stephen. That's the ticket. Internet thing
on your face.
Let's talk about something here. I've got a really exciting announcement that we have to kick off right away. It cannot wait. The Weekly has its first sponsorship. It's from a website that's part of the thread of the mobile community, and that's swappa.com. It's a marketplace for gently used mobile devices. It's great for sellers because there are no seller fees, unlike eBay, which has a fee for just about everything. And it's great for buyers because all the devices have to have a clean ESN, which means they're not stolen. And they also have to have no damage, so devices bought from Swappa tend to look relatively new, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so if you're going to buy something from Brandon Miniman, who does sell stuff on Swappa, make sure you buy it from Swappa, from Brandon Miniman.
It's a good point.
It doesn't have life experience.
It's a good point. I should also mention the site has awesome customer service. A staff member oversees every transaction, so things go smoothly, like this podcast. And if you're trying to clean out your old gadget drawer, and you want to turn your old used devices into cash, or if you're bored with your current phone, something that I think all three of us on the air understand, and you don't feel like shelling out tons of money for a new device, give Swappa a try. Go to swappa.com/pocketnow so they know we sent you. That's swappa.com/pocketnow. And we thank them for being our first sponsor. That's not the only announcement we've got. Stephen, why don't you hit us with the other big news of the week?
Yeah, you might have seen the announcement post a couple days back, but for July, we're doing something a little new. We had a giveaway last month. You might have entered to win the Huawei Ascend Mate 2 4G LTE.
Nice.
Nailed it. I got that on the first try. It wasn't a guarantee. we already have a winner for that one. That phone's gone, but we decided to keep this ball rolling. So all July long, we're going to be having a month full of weekly giveaways. We're starting it off next Monday with a very special Sony Xperia Z2 with a special custom Pocketnow skin from the good folks at D brand. Oh yeah, show that, Michael. This is
not only is the phone branded, but the box is branded. And listeners, I'm sorry you can't see this, but it is in the post at Pocketnow. You can check it out. And then you pop it open, and we've got the big old Pocketnow P right on the back cover there. Oh, it's so cool. And we didn't know that they were doing it, by the way. We didn't know that D-Brand was doing this for us. They surprised us with it, so it's baller. And if you don't like it, you can take the skin off. But it's also, they asked me to mention that the skin is 100% reusable because the Z2 is all glass, as you know. So you can peel this off, and if you don't get any dust on it or whatever, you can just put it aside and use it later for when you come to Pocketnow cocktail parties.
Yeah, when you're invited to the Engadget company party, you peel it off, put it back on. Once you're in, better company. But that's just the first. We're going to follow it up with a couple weeks of invitations for the OnePlus One, which is still crazy hard to get your hands on. So if you've been thinking about buying one, this is your chance to at least get the chance to. And after that, we're going to end the month out with another Huawei Ascend Mate 2 4G LTE. So the more the merrier. That thing's that beast of a phablet with the gigantic battery. So keep checking it every Monday. We'll have the details for each contest as they come around. Eligibility is going to change a little based on which week it is, and what you'll have to do to enter is going to vary. So definitely stop by each Monday to get those details.
And I have news that no one on the air knows. We have an additional giveaway lined up to slot in somewhere in there, either within the month of giveaways or after it. We have yet another giveaway happening. Yeah, Stephen, I'll have to fill you in on this later. But it makes it even more exciting. Like, this is a cool. We're thinking of it as a device pairing, a smartphone and an accessory. So we'll stay tuned for that. So it's just crazy. We're giving away a whole bunch of stuff, and it's awesome.
Who's going to give me stuff?
Taylor, I try to give you stuff, and you're like, no, I don't want it. The Oppo Find 7, speaking of stuff that, Taylor, you once had, you had the 7A at one point. We have the Oppo Find 7 in the house, the one with the actual Quad HD display, not 2K display. I know, it's 2.5K. There's a lot of anger that gets tossed around when you say 2K display. But the Oppo Find 7 is in the house. Anton has it. He's very excited to be reviewing a phone again. I'll leave it to you guys to decide whether I'm telling the truth about that or not. But I believe his first comparison is up. I've not had a chance to see it yet. He's comparing it against the LG G3. So go check that out if you haven't already. I'm very interested to see how that goes.
Is there any word on the status of his computer? Is it dead?
Yeah, so Tony was editing one of his Oppo Find 7 videos, and his computer apparently not only shut down in the middle of a Final Cut Pro session, which has happened to almost all of us, but that Tony added the little tidbit that he then smelled a funny smell. So it really
not
doesn't
one of his
sound
cigars,
good.
I take it.
Yeah, not one of his cigars, and I don't think he was recently back from the gym. So
Maybe Palinka?
Maybe Palinka. I hope it was Palinka or Zakuska.
Zakuska.
Because if it wasn't, then we got a dead computer. But anyway, Tony is going to have that content out. You know him. He's a machine. And also, there was one other thing I wanted to mention about Tony. Oh, he's going to try a fun experiment on his vacation, which he takes soon. He's going to try and go his entire vacation with one battery pack. An accessory vendor who I can't remember sent him like a 10,000 milliamp-hour battery pack. And he's going to try and just use that for a week.
And not like topping it up constantly. You're running it down.
Exactly. Running it. Yeah, I'm excited to see if that works.
He also told me that he wasn't using a smartphone on his vacation.
Well, that would help make the battery pack last.
I was going to say, then he'll return with a full battery and he'll win.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this other device here. The OnePlus One has reached our friend of the show and friend of Pocketnow, Chris Larson. He's got it, he's set it up, and he's going to be penning our guest reviews. So just want to let everybody know that's been unboxed. And if you want to submit your suggestions for coverage to him, he's on Twitter at CELarson, CELARSON. And finally, our Galaxy S5 Prime review is up. And I'm going to reach into my LD West holster suspenders here. They are not sponsoring the show, but I really like these. I really like these a lot. I'm reviewing these next week. And listeners, I will tell you all about it next week so that if you're not watching the show live, you'll be able to hear about it. This is the Galaxy S5 Prime, a.k.a. the Galaxy S5 LTE-A. And later in the show, we will be answering your questions live on the air about it. And yours too, Stephen and Taylor, if you have any questions. It's going to be a bit of a Samsung-heavy show. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
It's not amazeballs. It's not. It's not. I mean, to me, if I were excited by Galaxy S's, it would be a very amazeballs product, yes. Let's say we hop into the thought thread, gents. We've got a good one here, and I myself am...
Speaking of Samsung,
exactly.
Speak of the devil.
I'm a little tired of talking, so why don't we hear from Taylor Martin for a little while? Taylor, you want to jump off the show with the thought thread today?
You're going to make me read on air? You know how great I am? That one time that I had, dystonia in the middle of a reading session?
You know, people miss you, Taylor. You haven't been here for a week, man. You've got to make up for lost time.
It's felt like much longer than a week. Anyway, this one comes from Jeff from Richmond. On this thought thread, he says, I've been doing some phone shopping, and it seems everywhere I go, the sales dudes are always pushing the Samsung devices. Do they make more commission or something with the Samsung products? I've been to Verizon, Best Buy, Walmart, T-Mobile, and some others, and the story from the sales peeps are always the same. According to them, if you want the best camera, Samsung. If you want the best battery life, Samsung. If you want the best display, Samsung. Marcia.
Why am I... Marcia.
Hey, maybe there's a Spanish version of
the Brady Bunch? Sure, I'm sure there is.
Is that how you spell Marcia? I never would have... No.
Yeah, well, anyway,
really?
What gives?
Okay.
Read the last line. The last line is the most important.
Pocketnow is killing it.
Killing it.
Jeff from Richmond.
Nailed it.
You know, that was a good reading, and Jeff, thank you for the mail. This is a good question.
I'm going to ask for Marcia to be phonetically spelled next time.
Next time, absolutely.
Little international phonetic alphabet.
I only took hooked on phonics. I only know phonetics.
So do you guys see this at your retail stores? When you visit carrier retail stores, do you actually get, do you ever play customer and get pitched Samsung products above all else?
I don't remember the last time I went to buy a phone in person. I mean, I bought the 1M8 in person, but I literally walked in. The guy's like, "Hey, I want an M8." Like, I didn't say.
Just hit him with the red. I'm like, listen, man, I ain't trying to hear your greeting. Just give me one M8.
Don't talk to me. Just take it out of the box, activate it, and hand it to me. We're good.
Well,
but no, I do play that sometimes. But around here, a lot of people in the stores that I would go to know who I am, just because I used to.
You got a rep
there.
Yeah, you've blown your cover, dude.
If I walk into a Best Buy, they're like, "What are you returning now?" That's not even a joke. So.
Well, you need to get the glasses with the nose and the mustache on them and go in incognito.
Yeah, that'll do nicely. Actually, set it up in Hangouts, Taylor. Put it on right now.
Yeah, the one with the hanging mustache.
Steven, what about you? Do you ever go kind of phantom shopping? Do you ever go mystery shopping?
No, I found myself right in the same boat as Taylor there. I can't remember the last time I so much as set foot into a carrier store. I was trying to about a month ago when AT&T had this killer deal on, they were fire sale on Lumia wireless chargers, and of course I couldn't find any. But no, I didn't end up going to a store. So I can't really say that, but I know, Michael, you have retail experience in your past. What did you get commission on phones? How did that even work?
I do, and yeah, actually, I was in a retail store just recently buying the Samsung Galaxy S5 Active, the replacement unit that I had to buy to review it. And while I didn't know it at the time, I would ultimately return it just because I can't carry that phone. Sorry, Windows Phone is being a little chirpy. Let me turn it down. My experience in that encounter was that the retail agent that was working with me, who was wonderful, by the way, wouldn't say anything bad about anything. Like, I tried to kind of poke and prod him a little bit. I'm like, is that 1520? Is anybody buy that? He's like, oh, yeah. I'm like, how's that Galaxy S5 doing? He's like, oh, a lot of people buy that. I'm like,
What you should do is go to the Verizon store and ask about the Lucid 3.
Right, yeah, I should have done that. I should have asked about the Rugby. But,
God.
Whatever happened.
Do you have any Gazones left in stock?
Oh, the Jizz one. Yeah, good phone. So, when I was in retail, there were definitely spiffs on stuff. I was at Sprint Nextel for a very long time, and there were occasionally manufacturer spiffs. There were accessory incentives. There was other kind of stuff. But I didn't.
What is a spiff for those of us without the
if you're not in
background,
if you're not hip to the lingo of the sales terminology, like a spiff is an extra incentive. It's a whereas commissions are sometimes calculated by percentages and sell rates and other kind of complicated things. Generally, spiffs, at least in my day, were very simple. They were, here, you get a $10 spiff for every Moto Q you sell, say, for example.
Okay.
But that my information ends at 2008, my personal experience. Whereas, so I just had a phone conversation right before the show, which is why we were a little late, with a source of mine at a major wireless carrier. He manages a few stores. And I asked him, I was like, this is valid. I understand. I have my own reasons for why Samsung may be pushed a little harder in the retail stores, but are there any incentives? Is this illusory, or is this a real thing? And his response was that no. At his carrier, Samsung no OEM actually pushed spiffs or offered special incentives to sales reps to sell more units, with the exception of Motorola.
Huh.
But in that case, my curiosity was piqued by that too. I'm like, wait, what? But there were some synergistic qualities to that Motorola arrangement that make sense that I don't want to talk about really. But anyway, the point is, no, these do not exist, at least on this one large national carrier. So I have my own theory, but Taylor, why don't you tell us what you think is the source here?
Yeah, I also have some retail experience. I worked at Best Buy Mobile for a little while, and
that's right.
I can't get into too many specifics. One, because it's been so long that I don't remember exactly how everything was. But I know that we were kind of incentivized to sell more Apple products, and it was just because we earned more money selling new activations. Actually, for an upgrade, we got nothing. $0
for an upgrade. Yeah, actually, us too.
An iPhone.
When an upgrade came in, it was like the worst customer experience, because they're an existing customer. They should be treated the best, but instead they come in, they're like, I'd like to upgrade, and immediately your mood just plummets. You're like, well, great, 40 minutes of work that I'm not going to get paid for. Okay.
Yeah, but then the new lines for iPhones was the pay from Verizon to Best Buy was like 3 or 4 times that of any other phone. So if it's a new line, we were incentivized to kind of push the iPhone just because we sold more money, but ideally we were also told to match the phone to the customer. So not necessarily worry about how much money we're making, but worry about the customer. And that was how it always was for the first 8 or 9 months, and then they're like, no, sell more, make more money. And
yeah,
my time with Best Buy, it drastically changed the time I was there, because it started out customer, and then it kind of transitioned, hey, we need to focus on some other things right now. But we were never told specifically to focus on any phone, ever. By any manufacturer, any carrier, anything.
I wonder if it's just easier to sell Samsung phones. I mean, Samsung spends all this money on advertising to begin with. The public's very aware of them. I mean, yeah, they're pretty high-quality phones in general to begin with, but I just feel like the public's going to be a little more accepting of them than an LG, or even though LG is a big brand on the global scale, I don't think that necessarily shoppers, especially in the U.S., are as comfortable with it as a phone brand as they are Samsung.
Yeah, I completely agree, and that was my thought. I mean, Samsung's already laid the groundwork through so much of the marketing that we sort of always talk about on this show, because you can't talk about Samsung without talking about the fact that they spend billions, and they outspend their competitors by billions on marketing. So, yeah, that was my thought as well. But probably the most interesting piece of information I picked up from my phone call with my carrier source was that Samsung's return rates are lower than any other Android, at least in that district. So when a rep can feel confident selling a device that is not going to come back, or is likely not to come back, then that works out for everybody. The customer's typically happier, and the rep is certainly happier, because he's not going to have to process a half-hour return that not only makes him or her no money, but also takes money out of his or her pocket. So I found that interesting, that the return rates on Samsungs were.
Now, is this
lower.
General returns, including I'm not really interested in the phone after all, or is it also just something wrong with it? Do we know?
I'm sure they track that at that kind of granular level, but
what
I did
we're
not
talking
get
about
insight
is
on that.
general.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, these are new updated metrics, not considering the times that we were in retail. Because I remember selling a lot of Samsung phones and getting a lot of them back. Specifically, the Samsung Moment. Do you remember that phone?
Samsung Moment for
Not ringing a
Sprint, wasn't
bell.
it? Was that the one with the slide? It was a side sliding QWERTY. Yeah.
Yeah, this thing.
While you're looking it up, if you wanna, I'll go ahead and lock it to your screen and I'll describe it. If Taylor's trying to pop it up on his screen here, and here we go. Its face is frozen, so we know some kind of activity. Yeah. So it was a side sliding QWERTY keyboard from Samsung with a. Back in the days when Android phones still had trackpads and hardwired send and end keys, and yeah, I remember the moment. That was a cool beast. Did you say you bought one, Taylor? After this, we got to move on.
No, I had a lot of returns on that particular phone.
Oh, that's a shame.
That one, and there was one more slider on Sprint from Samsung. Same thing, and I can't remember
the Epic, the first Epic, probably.
No, the Epic wasn't. It was another low-end one, kind of like the moment.
Well, so Jeff, it's a really good question. I thank you for sending it in, and I think it's a combination of the things we discussed. I think it's that low return rate was a surprise to me, but that'll certainly incentivize a sales force, and also the fact that Samsung's already done so much of the work. These people walk in the door, I'm by no means calling all sales reps lazy or anything like that, but if somebody walks in the door and you either have to describe the entire history of LG or HTC to them, or say, like, that weird Gary Oldman commercial? Let me describe to you what that means. Or they already come in the door and you're like, hey, yeah, Samsung, the Galaxy? Yeah, I've heard of the Galaxy. Yeah, let me show you that. Do you like it? You like it? Oh, cool. All right, here you go. Have a nice day. I don't know. I just think it's a question of ease myself.
Yeah, this was the other one, the Intercept.
Taylor is displaying a picture of the Samsung Intercept, another side-sliding QWERTY that I definitely would not have bought ever.
I love it.
Those things, we would sell them because people wanted something cheap, and they were, I think, $1, or I think you just had to pay tax, and they came back more than anything ever. It was awful.
I want to point out,
I don't like it.
As we transition into news, I want to point out that in the chat, which I still love having, by the way. Of all the things that this format affords us, I love having a live chat where people can kind of contribute on the fly. Everyone, Stephen, is in love with your new setup. They love your camera. They love your microphone. Congratulations on finally graduating to the pro
glad
league.
it all came together like it did.
What kind of microphone do you have? What did you get?
This is the Monoprice large diaphragm condenser. This whole setup is Monoprice stuff.
You need a large diaphragm condenser.
eBay.
They may make cheap stuff, but they make good stuff too. So.
Amen, brother.
And I also want to point out that somebody on the Pocketnow team said Steven looks and sounds good. Glad he finally got the upgrade. I don't know who that is. I imagine it's Rithvik or somebody else. But since Pocketnow says that, okay, well, I agree, Pocketnow. Let's go ahead and move on. Steven, why don't you tell us about the news? Why don't we keep this Samsung ball rolling for just a second? We're going to come back to it later, but let's kick off the news week with this F-bomb.
You may have this Galaxy S5 LTE-A / Prime, but for the rest of us who aren't going to be importing phones from South Korea, we're really hoping this Galaxy F is going to happen. It's supposed to have been we were thinking it was going to be the Prime version of the GS5 originally. Didn't happen. It's sort of where all these leftover rumors of the metal body and the Quad HD have been coming together. We've been seeing a lot of renders come out. EvLeaks has been dropping a few every once in a while. The latest one landed just the other day, and it's very much more of the same. It's got this metallic gold trim, nice slim bezel. It looks just a lot like a GS5. We haven't seen any real pics of it in the wild that have been convincing, so we're still in render territory where we don't really know if this is going to be right around the corner, a couple months down the line, or happening at all. But it looks like a real product. I mean, all these renders, someone clearly built them for a reason, and they have this weird, like, almost print quality to them, like a halftone, like they were pulled from some sort of publication that Samsung was maybe distributing internally. But it looks neat. What do you guys think?
I think Anton Dinoj just emailed me in the middle of your whole thing, and I was like, and I got distracted. It was him. It was him who said it before, by the way. Hi, Tony. I'm glad you're watching. Stephen, I think that this thing doesn't interest me at all, but I want to hear what Taylor's thoughts are. No, I don't like the look. I mean, it looks like it looks like this. It looks like the Galaxy S5.
But is that a bad thing?
Yes. For God's sake, yes. I mean, it's so boring to me. But I opine frequently. Taylor, do you agree with me for once?
Yes, I totally agree. The Galaxy S5 did not move me at all. I mean, it's a good phone, it's solid, but it's also extremely boring, like you say. And
But
Twitter
it
Yeah.
doesn't
is
have to be
based.
exciting to be a good phone.
It
No,
has to be
no, you're right.
exciting to excite me. Like, I'm not going to get excited over something that's marginally better than something that's
Snapdragon
already out there.
805. Come on.
Sure, sure,
Taste
sure.
it.
Yeah, the guts are under there. But you know what? I saw a car in a parking lot the other day. It was a Volkswagen. It was a Volkswagen at one point made this strange-looking convertible that from afar looks like a Miata, but the closer you get to it, looks more and more like a kind of a make like a premature Miata, like a prototype one
Like
that.
a Carmen Ghia?
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
That might
Yes.
have been it.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. So, how was the engine in that, Stephen? And I promise we're not going to stay too long on this. How
I
was
have
the
no
engine?
idea. I can't imagine it's very good. It's a small little thing.
Right, it's a tiny little, but it's Volkswagen. I get the, so assume the engine's good for the purposes of my
Okay.
point. Assume the engine's good and the seats are comfortable and the dashboard is well laid out and it's a fun car to drive. I still would never have picked it up ever in my life because I think it's the ugliest looking thing ever.
Oh no, it's nice. It's
They
got
are-
those grills on the front.
It's not
Oh.
nice. That's an ugly car. So, not that I'm saying the S5 is ugly. It's not ugly. It's just
Bland.
criminally inoffensive.
Yeah.
Bland is the right. It doesn't want to offend anyone, and in the process of not offending anyone, it doesn't say anything. So I find it unimpressive. That's what I'm saying.
Well, and I'm to the point now where specs are so good across the board for pretty much everything that a Snapdragon 805 really doesn't do much of anything for me.
Yeah.
I mean, if I buy a new phone, I'd like my next phone to have it in there, but I'm not going to stress over the current generation having that or not. And
No, I
it
think a
just-
lot
it
of
just
the
doesn't bother me.
excitement is you want to say that you have the latest and greatest. It doesn't, even if you can't appreciate the difference between the 1080p and the Quad HD, it's, oh, well, look what I have and you don't. So,
Tony is continuing to not play by the rules. I like this. This is actually a fun interaction. Tony says from the chat, this is Anton Dinaj, it's not about excitement, guys. It's about what Samsung knows very well what will sell. From this perspective, they're very much like Apple, releasing stuff that people will buy, not necessarily what people want. That's an interesting point. Now, and I think business-wise, yeah, this Galaxy F, it certainly looks good, and I understand that they want to be conservative in this choice. They don't want to necessarily go deviate completely from a pattern that has worked very well for the company. For all the breath we expend on this podcast and on other venues talking about Samsung's boring fit and finish and industrial design, the company just sells hundreds of millions of phones. So I understand. I'm not going to buy it.
Yeah, part of me is kind of torn on this device because it's, where does the Galaxy S5 stand anymore, or the Galaxy S brand? Galaxy S was their top tier brand, and then came the Galaxy Note brand, which kind of one-upped the Galaxy S every year. And now you have this Galaxy F. Like, what does Galaxy S stand for anymore? It's not top tier anymore.
right.
Well, that's a good point.
That's
But-
Galaxy Note. But then this
I was
Galaxy
going to say,
F,
that's the thing. This is the same conversation we had when the Note line went from something like a bizarre, perverse experiment to, oh my God, this is the new super premium line. I don't think that was planned at all. I think that was an accident. So I think they're playing around to see what's possible with a new sub-brand. It's not the only letter they've invented this year. They also brought out the K, the K Zoom. So.
well, this is like a Galaxy Mega that people would actually want to buy. Except for it's not giant. It's just kind of like that experimentation kind of, we don't know what it is, we don't know why it exists kind of thing.
Like a Galaxy Round, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as being exciting, it's anything but.
Yeah.
Steven just reached out a frame for something when he said Galaxy Round. I was so excited you were going to bring out a Galaxy Round.
Would that I were.
Well, the Galaxy F, I will. This is going to be my parting point on this. I am not going to judge it before I see it, before I hold it. I'm sure it will feel better in the hand than their existing polycarbonate stuff, but and I'm sure it'll still have a removable battery and all that stuff that their company is known for. I just want to make the point that it's not necessarily about just metal. I have never said that, oh man, if only the S4 or the S5 was metal, I would like it a lot. It's about a compelling a compelling total package. The M8 does it. Metal is very much part of the One M8's identity, but it's not all of it. Like, there's boom sound. There's the love it or hate it HTC logo behind the screen. There's the weirdo eyeballs around back. Whatever you think about that stuff, it's all very present. Yeah. What did you say, Taylor?
It's bold.
It's bold. Yes, it's a bold choice. And in LG, it's the same way. With the G3, it looks like a fast device, a modern, sleek, futuristic slab.
It feels visceral when you're holding it in your hand. Like the Galaxy S5, holding it in your hand, it feels like a Galaxy S4, which feels like a Galaxy S3. And it just, the excitement just kind of washed away 2 years ago.
But this is also why they're so easy to sell, because it's, this is what I had before, only a little bit better. I don't have to get used to anything new. I don't have to change my set ways. It's a minor little upgrade along the path to always having a Samsung Galaxy phone.
Right, I don't disagree with that. But you do that, you play that part, and you lose your excitement.
Yeah.
Period. But like the the G3, it's a lot like the G2, but it's a lot better. It's a lot more exciting. It looks better. It feels better. It runs better.
It would be my argument that it's nothing like the G2 from an aesthetic perspective. I've said it before. I think the G2 was so unbelievably boring physically, whereas the G3 is not at all. I mean, the G3 is a stunning piece of equipment. I wish it didn't scratch as easily, but it's quite a piece.
Probably wouldn't. And that's the thing. Like, I've definitely sang the praises of HTC for using metal, but I'm not all metal all the time. I told Michael that I want a G3. Like the T-Mobile G3, I might be selling my M8 to get a G3. I don't know.
Yeah, but you don't count. You change phones like you change shirts.
That's not true.
You're like the new Brandon Miniman.
That's not true. I never change shirts.
How is that true? How is that true? I had a Moto X and then a One M8, and that's it. I carried a Moto X for 9 months almost.
I guess that's a good point. I've enjoyed carrying my X. By the way, I want to mention this before we move on to the next topic. The reason that I'm carrying the 1520 is, first of all, because GSM Nation was kind enough to loan us one for the purposes of an After the Buzz. This was not on the schedule, folks, but you requested it so feverishly in the comments that we are doing it, and I'm very excited. I'm actually happy to have it. I like the 1520. That's not these wires are connected to my head, which is connected to the computer, and I almost just knocked everything over. The reason that I'm excited is also because I am no longer required to carry a Galaxy S every day. I am very tired of it, and I'm happy to move on. So I wanted to move on to HTC, but go ahead.
But that's why you have me on here.
to crash. Yeah. What's up?
Exactly why you asked me to come back.
It is.
What can we expect from your little phone holster?
Yeah, the LD West suspender. So I'm going to describe this in detail in my review coming next week. I'm not going to talk about it much. This is just a tease, Taylor. This is not.
Can I ask one question?
You can ask one question about the suspenders I'm wearing that have holsters on them. Yes.
Okay. Do you feel that it supports your man chest area?
Very few things can support the Riker chest. I gotta tell you, you just puff it out at all times. That's right. Let's talk about HTC, guys. We have some good news. This never happens. I never get to say good news out of HTC this week, Stephen. It may not be the biggest.
Little good news.
It's a little bit, but it's still good. It's still positive. What is it?
Yeah, HTC's quarterly numbers are in. Its revenue is not dipping, which is good. I mean, last year we saw the One M7 come out. Sales peaked briefly, and then they sort of dived right back down and stayed back down. With the One M8 this year, we already had the April figures, and those understandably were up. And the May figures came around, and they were a little bit down. We were kind of unsure where things were going to go from here. Now that June's out, it's a little up from May. It's not back to where it was in April, but it's plateauing. It's showing that this interest in the M8 doesn't have seemed to have been like a flash in the pan. It's maintaining these sales. And, I mean, maybe the Mini 2 has something to do with this as well, but it's not tanking, and they turned a profit. It's only about 76 million for the quarter, but that's something. That keeps the lights on. That's a lot better than last year when they were losing money. So it's really promising. I mean, they still have to keep things going for the rest of the year, and it's going to be a long time till we see an M9 coming out, but it could be a lot worse.
It could indeed, and I guess I'm not terribly surprised I'm not taken aback by this. I think we're reserving our judgment a little bit to see what these numbers would pan out to, but I think the M8 is being positioned better than the M7 was, even though I still don't understand the commercials very well. I think they are appearing more often in my broadcast watching anyway. I think it's, I think it stands a chance, and I think the press is buzzing more about it this year. I mean, the M7 we talked a lot about last year, but I think this is a new level of activity. So maybe that's the result of what we're seeing here. Certainly, I don't think it's the One Mini 2 that's contributing. It hasn't been out long enough, and it's not all that great.
I'm seeing a lot of these in the real world. I've seen several 1M8s. I'd
Really?
say double digits. I'd say 20 or not 20 or 30, maybe 15 to 20 1M8s in public.
Wow.
Random people carrying them. So
That's amazing. And I mean, Taylor is in this is in Charlotte. You're talking?
North Carolina.
No, you're in
between-
a major southeastern city.
Yeah, that's between Winston-Salem, Charlotte, and Wilmington.
I've seen a few of them out on the streets. Not as many as I expected initially, but then again, Boston is a very iPhone town. So that's interesting. Stephen, what about you? What about the report from Jersey?
I do not notice smartphones when I am out and about. I am too wrapped up in myself. Come on.
you.
When you're me, how can you not be?
It's a
I don't
good
pay
point.
attention to everyone else in the world. It's all about me. Duh.
Duh.
And I don't watch TV with a lot of commercials, so I'm not seeing this HTC promotional effort. But whatever it's doing is working.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Totally agree. Michael, my girlfriend, said that, or she equates your holster to a fanny pack.
No. See, there's the difference. Fanny packs are inherently lame. Fanny packs are wait, Stephen, you disagree with this?
I have this awesome black fanny pack. It's got neon green highlights. It's got my Super Mario Brothers pins on the front. It's effing awesome. Okay, it was
Actually,
awesome in 1988. It's awesome
With the
now.
exception of Stephen Shank's fanny pack, which actually does sound pretty awesome. There's no such thing as a cool fanny pack. This makes me look like a detective, Taylor. I'm ready to draw at any moment. You don't know when I could pull out my Galaxy S5 LTE Active and show you what's what on Geekbench.
And hit me with your IR blaster?
I could hit you with. You don't know. You don't know what I did to the laser on this beast.
Can I have one question about the holster as well?
Jesus. Yeah. Yeah. I should know more.
Is it intentionally a smartphone holster, or are you just using it as such?
No, it's designed as a smartphone holster with a wallet on one side of the suspenders, a phone holster on the other, and the phone holster comes in large, medium, and small, and extra large, actually.
Okay. I was going to say, if it had dual phone holsters, you might have to rethink this, Captain Two Phones identity here, because there could be more of you out there.
My head just exploded. For real. They sent me multiple holster sizes. I could replace the wallet with another phone holster and then be, indeed, truly Captain Two Phones.
Holy Detective Two Phones.
I think I would need a promotion. Yeah, I'd have to be Commodore Two Phones at that point.
No, Detective. Detective.
Well, we're losing viewers by the 10,000, so let's move on. Z3 Compact. Stephen, we skipped the Z2 Compact. We went right to Z3. What the hell happened?
I am not sure about this guy. This showed up first a little earlier this week. There were a pair of pictures showing front panels from some unreleased Xperia phones, purportedly the Z3 and the Z3 Compact. Now, shortly after the Z1 came out, we started seeing Z2 stuff, and initially, I wasn't too sure if those were real or not. The Z2 did actually come out. I'm still not convinced that what we're seeing here is the Z3/Z3 Compact. And the newest thing is we have the screenshot that emerged showing us some information about the phone. And it doesn't look that great. It mentions an 8974 Snapdragon, which I think is just an 800 or might be an 801, but it's not pushing the specs envelope here. It may be a Z3 Compact. It may not be. I think it's just too soon to form many strong opinions about this model.
I'm looking at the 8974. I think you're right about that. I think that is a Snapdragon 800.
Yeah, I thought it was the first one.
It is an 800, yeah. Which would make sense if they were going to put that in the compact version, because didn't the Z1 compact just have a straight-up 800?
You would think that by the Z3 it would have improved a little bit.
You would think, but I think, and maybe people will disagree with me on this, probably I'm wrong, but I think you could still get away with calling a device top tier with a Snapdragon 800 in 2014.
Yeah, especially if it's not rocking a 1080p display or anything.
Exactly. If you've got a Snapdragon 800 powering, a 720p panel, I mean, that's a lot of juice right there.
And I want to throw in there that if it's the compact, it's still better than any mini phone out there.
Absolutely true.
Period.
100%.
And I just finished an editorial about the Galaxy S5 Mini and how it's not deserving of the name, which we could say that for just about any mini phone out there. So if Sony's still out there making mini phones with specs comparable to full-sized flagships, I say do whatever you want, Sony.
And that's my point. This is a question of timing. If we're seeing leaks of the Z3 compact, assume this is true. Assume this is in fact a leak of the Z3 compact. That's where the screenshot came from. Does that mean that the Z3 is in development, and with Sony's sort of weirdo 6 to 7 month product cycle on their Xperia line, does that mean we could see a Z2 compact here in the next month, Stephen?
I think that would be incredibly optimistic. I mean, we'd be hopefully getting a lot more leaks about it than we have been, and there'd be chatter on the Twitter. But I'm just not seeing it. They could very well surprise us. Companies do this. I mean, HTC, the Mini 2, came from nearly out of nowhere, but
right, yeah,
it's really hard to get a read on this.
What a reaction, Michael.
Well, it's just that I am lost in thought. On I think last week's episode, someone asked us in listener mail, what is the one device that if we had to carry it for 2 years, what would it be? And my answer was the Z1 compact. I think that is the cat's pajamas, the bee's knees, the tits. I think it's a great phone. So,
is Michael? Is Anton still emailing you? What is happening here?
No, actually, what Sony could get away with not releasing a compact for 2 years and still own the mini market with lower-end competitors from HTC, Samsung, etc. That's what Tony's contribution is, and you know what? He's right. Sony is for now the king of minis. What were we saying, Taylor?
Oh, I was just asking if he was still talking to you because you kind of droned off, leaned in and said the tits.
Well, I wasn't sure if I wanted to say it. You understand? I don't know. I understand we have an explicit tag, but this is YouTube. I don't know what's what. Let's talk about the next item on the itinerary because I don't want to get my hopes up a little bit more.
Explosion!
This is absurd to me. Lenovo is about to buy Motorola. And you would think that an announcement like this would come as a result of that impending merger, but no. Motorola not included in this estimate. Lenovo aims to launch 60 smartphones next year. 60.
Why? Samsung already launches too many phones. Period. You're spending so much money in designing and manufacturing and changing the manufacturing process ever so slightly for all of these different devices. The only way that it would even remotely make sense is if you're 3D printing the casings, but at that point you're still spending way too much money. I don't get it.
I kind of don't buy this. I don't think we're getting the full story here because look where it's coming from. This is a Digitime story sourced from some Chinese site, and
no, it's sourced from Phone Arena, I think. But
it goes back through.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
And it's not like an official press release or anything. It's a comment an executive made, and it's how executives can be. It's we're gonna have 60 phones because we're the best company. We're gonna be on top of the competition. It may be a little bit of hubris in there, a little.
Well, maybe it's a tactical decision. Maybe, assuming it's accurate, maybe it's hey, look at yes, Samsung puts out a lot of phones that they shouldn't. God knows they put out so many. They just announced 4 new ones the other day because it was a Wednesday. Time for another 4 phones. So I feel like if I'm Lenovo and I'm the number 5 in the world as far as smartphone maker goes, and I want to make a name for myself because I obviously do because I bought Motorola so I get into the American market and a couple others. I'm in a big period of growth for smartphones. If I can churn out 60 separate models in a year which math-wise is, I don't know how many that is per month. If I had known, I would have been a real pro.
More than one a week.
Really impressive. Yeah, more than one every week. Shoot, man.
5 per
Get
month.
that out there.
And I don't think we mentioned earlier, this is not including any Motorola phones either. This is just Lenovo's.
I was going to make it funny and say that somewhere it got lost in translation, and Lenovo said that they were going to launch 60, and they were going to actually just sell 60. But then you had to go and drop the bomb that they're the number 5 phone maker in the world. So
No, I was thinking there might be a translation thing, because the article also mentions wanting to sell 60 million phones total. So that 60 pops up in there a couple of different places.
That would make more sense, wouldn't it?
Or maybe they're talking like every different color counts as a different model or something stupid like that.
60 different SKUs.
Yeah.
Samsung does that with one model.
I was just going to say we've been fooled by that a number of times with manufacturers who's like, wow, why are there 8 SKUs in here? Oh, 6 of them are different colors. Okay.
Colors, and then Samsung launches an LTE advanced model. They launch a US model, a CDMA model. They launch, and then you have colors for all of those SKUs. Yeah.
Sure. Oh man, this was billed as a Samsung centric podcast, and now it's just a Samsung bashing. We're not gonna do that. No, we're not gonna do that. Let's talk a little bit about that after the acquisition closes. I'm rather excited for that, to be honest. I'm really excited to see what happens with Motorola and Lenovo together. Until then, we're going to get a little gift, but not before we cover one other Google property that at least 66% of us on the air really love or used to love.
Can I say the story that we're about to talk about made me both very happy and mad at the same exact time?
Yeah, you can say that.
I can say that.
Sure.
I can say that. And there was another piece of news that I learned after I published this editorial talking about what Google didn't do with Android L that made me wrong. Like, somebody came out and said, hey, Google does have the code in there for a percentage in your battery meter or in your status bar. They just haven't activated it yet. So, 1, I look like an idiot because of that. And then 2, I published that article, and then I saw this screenshot on Reddit like 2 hours after that.
Well, Taylor, we might be able to save your reputation, Taylor, because this is not the story that it seems to be. Listeners, if you don't know what we're talking about, this is the headline. Hangouts integration with Google Voice is nearly complete, suggests debug tool. Steven's got his head in his hand. You all right?
Google Voice is probably my favorite Google product right now. I was on Grand Central before it was even Google Voice. I've loved it since day one. It's the number I give out to most places when I sign up. I guess got a new bank account. They only have my Google Voice number. And now it looks like it's finally getting bundled up into Hangouts. They've been talking about this officially for over a year by this point. The code's in there. It's just a matter of when this is going to happen and a matter of learning what the impact is going to be. Does this mean that the standalone voice app is dead in the water? Are you going to be forced to join Google Plus if you want to keep using voice? It could shake things up in a way that a lot of users might not be comfortable with. So it's uncomfortable for me to be hearing about this, honestly.
So I have mixed feelings about this because I, too, signed up for Grand Central way back in 2007. And listeners, if you somehow don't know what Google Voice is, it's a service that lets you have one phone number for all your needs. If you have 20 phones, like most of us on the team do, it forwards calls and texts to all those lines so you can have one phone number. It's very convenient. You can manage text and calls online. You can take calls through your Gmail interface on Chrome. Through your computer, which is why none of us have ever been impressed when an OEM has come out and said, now you can take calls on your computer. It's like, I've been doing that forever. So Google Voice is very cool in some ways, but some limitations that it launched with back in 2009 still remain. I can't get picture messages sent to my Google Voice number, and they just evaporate. The sender has no idea that I didn't get the picture. They just think I'm a jerk for not responding. The Google Voice voicemail transcriber that's supposed to transcribe voicemails into text and send them to you is nothing but an endless pit of hilarity because they're all terribly translated.
Say that like it's a bad thing, but if it's intentionally entertaining.
I think it's bad when you have people who actually pronounce words like they're supposed to be pronounced. When some of my family members call me and leave me a voicemail, it is amazing, amazing how wrong it is. Like,
I should have had some of these queued up to read on the air. They're hilarious. But anyway, so there have been some downsides to Google Voice, and there's a part of me that says if they bundle in Google Voice with Hangouts, and I have to just kind of put my number on one SIM and just be like everyone else, there's a part of me that would be relieved, to be honest, and not have to explain why. Yeah, not have to explain why I'm a tech writer who can't get picture messages and who can't be in group texts. Like when people are trying to arrange, I don't know, 4th of July parties, and I'm only getting texts from like 1 out of 4 people. So like every 2 minutes it's like, yeah, okay. No, but what about this? I'm like, I don't know. Who are you even? Because I don't even have a So
see, here's my problem. I waited like 2 or 3 years to migrate everyone over to my Google Voice number.
Yeah.
And I do that, and then Google's like, oh, we're killing the API in like 6 months. So everybody's texting me on this number, and I'm like, you have to text me on this new number now. And they're like, what? I just put this number in my phone.
Yeah.
And then Growl Voice just randomly stops working one day, which is what I use to Google Voice from my Mac. And all of my third-party apps and everything stopped working. All the ones that I bought and paid good money for, none of them work anymore. And now I'm back to using my own personal number, and people are calling my Google Voice number, texting this number,
this
texting
is the problem
this other
when you
number,
change
and it's
phone
just
numbers. I mean, it's a hazard for everybody, right? So
Right.
Let's talk about this. Yeah.
I don't think they're going to kill your Google Voice number, because right now, if
No, they're
someone
not.
calls
No, the question is if it's still going to be worth using after the change.
right.
Yeah.
I
So
don't know.
my thing is this. I just realized in my reflection that this is not even, so I'm going to fix my suspenders.
We've been judging you this entire time.
thank
I
you.
don't
Have
say
you seen
anything.
my eye twitching over here?
So here's the thing. The thing is that Google has been promising to bundle voice with Hangouts for a long time. Or not promising, but intimating. The rumors have been saying that this would be the case. And this was seen in a recent screen capture, a video capture of, this is Android L, right, guys?
Yes.
Yeah. And it popped up in Reddit as a screenshot that there's a little thing, and you know when Google asks you to migrate your texts to Hangouts, it's a similar pop-up like that, except it's blue. Migrate Google Voice to Hangouts. Receive voicemail and send text messages in Hangouts. Turn it on or not. However, this is not necessarily anything new. Android Police is reporting that there's not much to see here because that message has been inside the APK of Hangouts since April, and the graphics may have been there for even longer.
Okay.
Yeah. So this person who captured this video, I'm sorry I can't source you because I can't see it in the YouTube embed, is using a root app to access the Hangouts debug mode. So there's basically no reason to believe any of this is new. So this is not really news, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending on what you're... Yeah. So Android Police, great, good reporting there. I think we'll update the post.
Making me not look like too much of an idiot.
Yeah, exactly. Taylor's reputation is secure.
Yeah. That first comment
Such
on that
as it is.
piece from Steven, was it Steven? No, Rhythmic. It says, it's like they read the article from earlier today. Like, I published, and then that went all over the internet.
So before we move off of that, Kyle Freeman in the Q&A, that's where we go to chew and answer. If this new integration with Hangouts for Google Voice enables you to use Android Wear seamlessly as carrier SMS, does that alleviate some concerns? Not really, Kyle. I'm not sure I understand the question, because I use SMS pretty seamlessly anyway on an Android device, either through the app or through, just straight up text forwarding. So
yeah, my understanding is Android Wear would be giving you your notifications, including text messages, without the need for them to be coming through voice, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, you can just grab SMS right through it. Certainly, there's room for improvement there. Kyle, I think if there was a lot of back-end work that was done to this to improve it, that would be really compelling. I just don't think that that's necessarily going to happen. I don't know. We'll see. Stephen, why don't you tell us, while we're talking about Android Wear, that's a wonderful opportunity to start talking a little bit about the Moto 360, also in the news this week.
Arguably the most anticipated of the Android Wear launch devices, even though it's still...
anything to argue about it. I think it's exactly
come on, man. It doesn't have a totally round display. It's more like the Moto 290. Haven't you heard?
What a disappointment. It's got a flat part on it. This thing is crap. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So last year with the Moto X, and Motorola got this whole custom phone bandwagon started. A lot of us are really excited to see all the options available in the Moto Maker, and they just kept expanding. We saw the wood options come later, and new colors, all that collie stuff eventually. So it's been a really exciting part of owning a Moto X and shopping for one. And we haven't really gotten the same sort of thing with any other Moto device since then. I mean, we had swappable back plates in some of the newer ones, but not the same pure Moto Maker experience. And now we're hearing that maybe the Moto 360 will offer some kind of Moto Maker tie-in. It's not clear what you might be able to change. The obvious stuff sounds like, the bands, colors, materials, but we don't know. Maybe we can change the materials on the watch itself, like a gold tone instead of the silver. I don't know, but it's
some rhinestones, a little bit of diamond.
Maybe bling it out, right?
Has anybody said what the blue backing is on the underside of the watch face?
No, but I think it's commonly believed that it's commonly believed in this room that I'm sitting in that is simply a decoration to remind you of its Qi wireless charging abilities.
That's what I thought when I first saw it, but I just wasn't sure. Maybe you can change the color, and it looks like in this little render, this is the old render. It looks like there might be some color around the little button, so maybe you can change your accent color like you can with the Moto X. I don't know.
Or change the crown, who knows?
That would make sense, because that was the point I was going to make, Taylor. We've seen this in Motorola's actions before. You can change the accent color on the Moto X, the little, the ring around the camera, the volume buttons, whatever. And those are tiny little touches, so it wouldn't be out of character for Motorola to say, yep, the whole watch is, you're either going to pick, gold or silver, whatever, but the stem, you'll be able to change that little button. You'll be able to change the color of that.
It's little stuff, but it helps make it yours. And this is something you're wearing on your wrist, showing off. It's much more visible than a phone, so
totally.
All the more reason to give users those sort of options.
I wonder if they'll offer some engraving, not the engraving we saw on the Moto X, which was just the laser bonded ink or whatever, but an actual metallic engraving on the back of the thing. Now it can't be metal on the back because it's Qi, right? So it's not going to be that. But maybe there'll be a personalized message like you find on some watches. I can't wait to get my hands on one.
Yeah. And the other part of that rumor is we might be waiting a while for it, because they're saying that the X Plus One could arrive alongside, or the 360 could arrive alongside the X Plus One, and I believe we've been hearing that it's supposed to be really summer, but like really late summer, so September probably. So still a couple months before we get a chance to start customizing them. 360.
Speaking of Moto 360, this is for sale, everyone.
Oh man, no, wait, Taylor. Taylor, if you're not serious, Taylor just held up a Pebble Steel, listeners. If you're serious, I want that actually.
Really?
Yeah, totally, because I'm still rocking the Pebble. So I wear my Gear Fit when I'm reviewing a Samsung phone, but I just took it off, obviously, and now I'm back to my original Pebble, and I really want the Steel faux real. So wait, hold up, let's do it on Swappa. And I'm actually being serious.
Hey.
Let's do that, because I have to use Swappa this coming weekend for another thing. Anyway. It's not another promo for Swappa, but there is one coming. I want to answer this listener's question right here, and I believe it is pronounced, I don't know how it's pronounced, Mr. Gracio. It seems that current Android Wear devices can only manage 1 day of battery life, with Pebble getting 3 to 4 days and Gear 2 getting about the same. What do you think about that?
That's a very interesting question, because actually Pebble Steel, when I first got it, was getting like between 7 and 10 days of battery life.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was crazy. And now it gets it's been better this week, and I don't know why. I switched to the Google Play Edition ROM on my 1M8, and it's been fine. But when it was on Sense, I was getting 2 to 3 days max. I was charging, actually, about a day and a half to 2 days on my Pebble.
That's interesting. And I think we should not discount the reality of the phone you're connecting to having a say in that, because I saw someone on Twitter complaining that Android Wear kills the battery life of his 1M8 in particular. But who knows if that's an HTC thing. I think that might just be it depends on what kind of apps you have installed and stuff. But go ahead, Taylor. Yeah.
If it's a quick and easy charge method, if it's Qi or something where you drop it down on your nightstand, I don't care. I take my watch off every night anyway. As long as it can last a full day, I'm happy.
That's what's going to do it, I think. If we can make charging as seamless as possible, I don't think users are going to get hung up on the fact that they might not get 1.5 days versus 3 days. You're charging it every 24 hours or even more often. You put put it in the car or something. Or on the steering wheel. It could charge it while you're driving. Doesn't matter.
I'm going to go ahead and sort of disagree with you there.
I wasn't completely finished. I was going to say the only thing is like if you're traveling. Like if you're traveling when you're going out of town for a weekend and you don't want to take a charger, that's when it's a problem. But yeah, that's
no, I understand the point you're making, but you're continuing to make the same point. I don't think it's an invalid one. I just disagree with it. I think smartwatches have a serious impediment to uptake. We're nerds, and we're nerds who report on this stuff, and so we have an inherent kind of, slant. And Taylor, in your case, in my case, we're nerds who have a lot of these things. I love them, and I'm a super nerd about them. You're cool with some of them, and I think that's sort of the case for a lot of people in our position. People out there in the world aren't going to start buying these things. I don't think that G Watch is going to move at all. I think the Gear Live is going to move about the same. The only thing that stands a chance of selling a whole lot of this generation of Wear is the 360 because it's but it's also huge. So that's an impediment. There is so much stacked against these devices for public acceptance that when you add to that the fact that, you have to charge it every night too? No, I don't want that. And what? So I can just pull my phone out of my pocket and have the same thing. No.
You got to charge your phone every night.
Yeah, but that's one thing. So then when I travel, like say I've got a girlfriend who lives across town, I gotta pack my phone charger and I gotta pack my Moto 360 charger. That sounds negligible, but I think it's valid. I don't think people are going to go for it. Until these things have consistent 1 week long battery life, it's not going to happen. I know
Project Volta. Let's just Project Volta.
Yeah, just
problem solved.
Yeah, there you go. You just click and drag, and there you go. But I want to stress that I'm playing devil's advocate there. I'm going to get the Moto 360 no matter what. Even though I will lose sleep, I will lose hours of sleep every night, having nightmares about the dent in the bottom because it's not perfect. It's not a perfect squirt, guys. I don't like people.
I don't know what that word was that you just used, but I don't know what that is. But
did I say squircle? What?
Yes, you did say squircle.
Hey man, just get in my family. We talk about squircles all the time in my family. Go ahead.
No, I do have a question. You said you're going to buy it no matter what. I call your bluff on that. What is the price point at which you will not buy a Moto 360?
$399.99. I will not spend $399.99. I would spend $349 on it. I will tell you that. I would spend.
Interesting you mentioned that. There's a story I saw on the feeds about a Chinese site that has 360 on pre-orders, and it works out to the American equivalent of like $4 something.
It's almost $500.
Almost $500. Now I'm not getting freaked out about that. I'm not even going to run this as news today because we're used to seeing crazy high prices in China if we just do a straight currency translation. So I wouldn't assume that's what it's going to be in the States, but maybe be worried a little. I don't know.
No. Because I mean, even I wouldn't even be worried if we didn't have Lenovo to think about. But after this transaction closes, unless there's a legal portion that I am overlooking, I think all bets are off. I think Lenovo can look at this and say, "Wow, we have a really, really notable, buzzworthy device, probably the most attractive wearable on the market ever, or at least the most, buzzworthy. Why don't we take a loss on this? Why don't we sell it at not at a fire sale price, but why don't we sell it at a pretty low price so that we can get it out there and leverage this new property of ours, this new Motorola thing that we invested in?"
I can't even begin to think that Motorola would price this thing at anything unreasonable. All three of its current smartphones are priced really, really low. Yeah. Why would they sell an auxiliary device that doesn't work without one of those for more than their flagship smartphone? That just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a good point. Well, we have nothing but time to find out about that. I hope it launches before the Moto X Plus 1, but if it launches alongside, that'll just make that launch much more interesting. I'm a little concerned, guys. I want to tell you that I think I'm out of polar seltzer, so this is a bit of a concern to me. I've got an empty bottle here, and
Can you get just a straw and blow some bubbles in a normal glass of water? Would that suffice?
No. You don't understand, Stephen. I need my carbonic acid. Why don't you tell us, Stephen, so that I can preserve my voice, about this new Nokia phone turning up in pics? Let's switch gears a little bit. Stop talking about Android as we come to the end of the news cycle.
Windows Phone still exists. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, it exists in a big way right next to
Well,
me.
Yeah. Lately, it seems like we've been hearing a lot about like Nokia code names for upcoming Lumias and haven't seen a lot of actual hardware. So all of a sudden today we get these series of 3 pics come out depicting a very Nokia-looking phone. It's got you can see a Nokia logo on the front there. It's got that weird circle on the back, like that would normally hide a big PureView camera. I'm not so sure that's the case here. It seems to be plastic back, metal frame. It's kind of looking like a mid-ranger. I mean, I've heard some people talk about this might be the McLaren that was referenced as the super uber high-end phone for the fall. It might be another 8 series like the 830, and that's kind of where I'm leaning to now, just looking at the size of it. It doesn't seem quite large enough to be 5-incher. But again, it's hard to get a sense of scale in these pics. But it's new Nokia hardware, so a lot of people are going to be excited just because of that.
It's an interesting little device that is being shown in these blurry cam photos. If you can imagine, listeners, now don't fall off immediately on me here. If you can imagine a Nokia X, or an XL.
Yeah, I've heard some X
corner
comparisons.
design.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, look at the corner design there. You've got this rounded screen edge butting up against a sharper corner, which I don't particularly like, but whatever. You turn it around and imagine a Lumia 1020 on the back, but with the camera Oreo reduced to maybe the size of what are those other chocolate little things that are about a half the size?
Hydrox? No,
those are bigger.
They're like Oreo minis.
Nah, but they're not Oreos. They're like chocolate covered little coin things, like a chocolate coin. Imagine a black chocolate coin, on the back of this thing, and that's what it looks like. In the blurry cam photo, which it doesn't look that great. If there's going to be a circle, I say go big. I say make it.
Yeah, that dinky little LED flash.
Yeah.
A nice big xenon in there. Come on.
I condemn this device. Oh, what's fun?
People on Nokia now. Fisher said no. We got to shutter this one, guys. Back to the drawing board.
There's somebody with a list, and there's Pocketnow is an item on the list, and they just took a big Sharpie and went, we're not getting this one, folks. So I want to close out this category. Taylor just sent me a link, but because it came through on my Pebble, all I get is HTTPS. You want to explain that, Taylor?
That is a link to a Google search about Oreo minis. Don't tell me I'm wrong. I know what Oreo minis are.
Are they covered in chocolate?
No, but that's the size of an Oreo mini.
You're wrong. I'm just telling you you're not talking about what I'm talking about. Get out of here. Listen, why don't you and I be friends again?
Oreo mini.
You and I be York mints. Yes, Julian, our awesome intern, just cleared it up. York peppermint patties. That's what the size of this thing looks like. Thank you, Julian. Why aren't you on the podcast? We should have had you on.
Julian, I liked you. You did good work. Why did you have to go and do this?
Well, gentlemen, I want to talk a little bit about this game that Taylor reviewed as the last item of news before we head into our feature segment. Taylor, you reviewed one of my favorite games for a mobile device. You reviewed the game Out There, and are we announcing not announcing, but is it common knowledge that it's on the Play Store?
Yeah. It's on the Play Store as the preview to this game on like the developers page or the apps page on Google Play.
That's common for other outlets, but we're actually this is the first time that our video has been featured on a Play Store app page, so I'm pretty amped about that. Congrats, Taylor. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's really fun. Apparently you made this connection, said that I should try it out, that we should review it, and all that stuff happened.
Tell us about the game.
It's a very fun and very, very hard game.
So what's the concept?
Hard. The concept is that you are basically an Earth. You're an astronaut or a space explorer from Earth, and you're at some far corner of the galaxy. You don't really know where you are, and you have to basically find. When the game starts, there's this beacon that you're supposed to travel towards, and you're just exploring the galaxy, some far corner of it, and trying to get to that star or something. I don't know exactly how to put that in.
Yeah, it's tough to describe it. It's if you've seen Star Trek Voyager, it's very much like that. You're trying to get home. It's what you're trying to do. That's all. It's a very simple concept, but what wonderful execution! What great storytelling!
Yeah, it's very difficult because you jump from star to star, and you gather things like fuel and different materials that help you repair your ship, replenish your oxygen supply, and top off your fuel tanks. and you jump from star to star, and you meet new life forms, and have to find the easiest way, or just a way to get to home, I guess, or to find communication. That's what you're traveling towards, is a form of communication to speak to Earth, and you're kind of out there on your own. You can find different ships, you find all kinds of different materials that you use to create,
And all
different
of this,
technologies that you learn.
it's sort of been done before in various different ways, but the art direction on this is kind of like you live inside this comic book, and it's
Yes.
a really well illustrated one. But the thing that got me the most is music. We should have made this a promo spot because it sounds like we're running a commercial for it. But the music, like, I don't like playing this game alone. It's kind of like The Room, where I don't like playing it alone at night. It's just creepy. It's this like epic dark piano. It's like
Such great music, and every time I was playing it, my girlfriend's like, "That music, though, every time."
Yep.
It's a lot of fun, but if you check out our comments, or the comments on that video and everything else, everybody's saying that it's very heavily inspired by Faster Than Light, which is a game I've never played, I had never heard of before I reviewed Out There. They look a lot alike, but they also look like the gameplay is quite different. So
Yeah, I got to try out Faster Than Light, and I'll have some thoughts on that. I just think it's so cool because I saw it there. This is not new. I met these guys at PAX this year, actually, and I had been pointed to this by, I think it was probably The Verge who reported on it first, and I was like, wow, that sounds compelling. I'll download it. And then I had a really good time. So what a fun game. I'm glad you made the video. I'm glad it's the Play Store video for this app. I think it's cool to be associated with such a cool title. So
yeah, that was the first time I reviewed a game, which was very interesting. Writing that script was difficult because I'm used to writing about phones, and I was focusing on gameplay, and I had to watch a bunch of game reviews just to kind of get a feel for how you review a game. So it was a lot of fun.
Brave New
It was a lot of
World.
fun.
Yeah. Well, go play it if you haven't already. I'm going to go play it after this podcast, probably after the 10 hours of work I have after this podcast. And I think it's about time we switched segments, gents. Are you both on board for that kind of a transition?
Ooh,
Let's get this done.
Oh, yeah. Bow, bow. Well, before we switch over, I want to remind everyone that the Pocketnow Weekly is sponsored by Swappa.com, which is an awesome place to sell gently used phones, tablets, and watches, or a cost-effective way to get your hands on new gadgets without having to pay full price for something brand new. Check out swappa.com/pocketnow. That's swappa.com/pocketnow. This next bit is a segment that we like to call Gadgets in Hand. Thanks to the folks at 28 Mobile, we've got a Galaxy S5 LTE-A, aka a Galaxy S5 Prime. We talked about it a lot earlier in the show. We've got it in our battered and bruised reviewers' hands here, and it's ripe for your questions. So we've been running the Q&A for a little while. We have a couple questions in there, and we're just going to answer them right on the air here. And we're trying to take some feedback from earlier episodes of the weekly. Anytime we're referring to something specific on screen that you can't see, if you're listening to the downloaded episode, well, we will describe it. I will illustrate it with floral language. It's going to be
It's
nice.
a phone. It's the front of the phone. It's the back of the phone.
You understand that it's a rectangle that you put in your hand and put up to your head. I'm actually looking for the Q&A because we're stacked up here. We have so many questions about this sucker. Do you guys, fellow editors, do you have something to kick me off with while I'm looking for one? Because this kind
Is it amazeballs?
It's no fair. You asked that question before. You jerk
my
face.
bad.
Yeah. No, all right.
Would you like me to also parse the YouTube comments for questions on this phone?
Yeah, if there are
Oh,
some in
my.
there, that would be freaking wonderful. I would really, really like that. So here's the first one. I will answer. This is from Shashi Busan Kunda. How is the battery life of Galaxy S5 Prime? This was one of the coolest things about this phone for me. If kind of taking a sidetrack from all the negativity that I'm partially responsible for. After the G3 and its high-density display and its kind of wonky network settings, I was kind of taught to be gun-shy a little bit about quad HD display phones and their battery life. But I don't know whether it's the AMOLED panel on this device or the optimizations built into the Snapdragon 805 or both. But this Galaxy S5 LTE-A has about the same battery life as the AT&T S5, the US version, which is amazing. I mean, it's how many times the pixels, guys? I mean, what's the math on it? Is it 4 times the pixels, or is there some kind of cube square
More
rule?
than double? I don't remember. No, I'm just curious. What radios have you been using for the LTE-A version? Because are you not on? Excuse me. Are you able to connect to LTE networks in the States? Maybe that could affect battery
I
life.
wasn't until Danny, whose last name I've never known how to pronounce properly, Danny Wingett, aka Super Scientific on Twitter, pointed me in the right direction about that. And actually, I believe I dropped a thank you in the comparison also to OT for Tech, whose name I've forgotten. Taylor, can you come to our rescue on that?
No, I cannot.
That
I can
sucks.
come to your rescue on the math. It's almost 2 times as much. 2 times as many pixels. It's 1.8 times.
There. You
Okay. All right. So there you go. So anyway, I'm gonna see if I can figure that out so I can give proper attribution. But yeah, I'm sitting here with this phone that I got from 28 Mobile, and I'm like, I know it's for South Korea, so am I not gonna be able to use it on the right bands? But wait, the radio supports those bands. So I had to hop into the dialer. I was given step-by-step directions from Super Scientific, and we got it working like frickin' right away. So yes, I'm using LTE,
Okay.
and I'm using the proper bands and everything, and it works just as well as the other one does, and it lasts exactly as long as the stock S5. So I had one in my left hand, one in my right hand. I was doing the same thing on them every single day, and I got down to, I think, after about 6 hours, I got down to like 45% on one and 51% on the other. So yes, the active, or I keep calling it the active, the LTE-A drains it a slight bit faster, but not anywhere near the neighborhood of drain that I was anticipating. So.
That's
And the
promising.
call quality and pretty much everything is just blow for blow, right?
Blow for blow in what case?
For like just comparisons between the two devices, the S5 and the Prime,
Yeah.
the call quality and all that.
It's not doing anything worse than the S5, is it?
No, it's not. And but you know what's frustrating? It actually does score differently in the benchmark, in the 3D Mark gaming benchmark. The Prime scores lower than the US one consistently.
Oh,
which is weird.
instead of different
Pushing
running
more pixels.
resolution, yeah.
Oh yeah, but it's got an Adreno 420. It's got a more advanced graphics processor, and it's got a better ISP too. But I guess that doesn't matter.
Yeah, but 1.8 times the pixels. That's...
Yep.
But
Almost
okay,
twice
so
as many pixels.
I guess I would have come to the same conclusion, but 3D Mark went out of its way to tell me, like, there's something weird. Like, this is a very powerful device, but your score sucks, so maybe let it cool down. But maybe it's not accounting for the higher resolution yet. I don't know.
It's like 3 point something million pixels. It's almost 4, and 1080p
Sure.
is just over 2 million. So that's a lot of pixels. It's a big difference. Seems like a small number. 1.8 seems like a small number, but it's a big difference.
This is a good question from not a lot of vowels. Maybe Nathan Kirsch too. Does this device have a TV antenna because it's a South Korean model?
I was wondering the same thing.
Yeah, that's something I normally notice, but I don't see it. Anyway.
No, I was waiting for some comment to be like, is there a stylus on that thing? No, it's just...
yeah, because normally that's the case. No, I don't see a UMB TV antenna on this thing. Obviously, we don't cover that because we don't have a UMB TV network here in the States. So, What, Taylor?
Was there one on the Korean model of the S5? I would imagine that the antenna would be something of concern for the
I don't
IP
think
rating.
there was. I don't think there was at all, but I don't know, But I hop into the Pocketnow reviews section and I look and I'm like, wow, who did that review? Oh, I did. I don't remember anything. There's too many.
You said IHOP and now I want pancakes.
Ooh, that's a good call.
Yeah, sale coming up next week. This week. Isn't it a shame, though, that we don't have some free-to-air digital TV standard that works on mobile phones in this country? I mean, how cool would that be if you could just watch the game live in full 720p, 1080p right on your phone without having to stream it on your data plan or something?
It would have been pretty
That
cool.
would have been nice.
Yeah, it would have been all right. I would have gotten mildly excited about that.
There's this thing called Wi-Fi.
With regard to this is from Patrick Day. With regard to the S5 Prime, do you think customers will burn through data quicker now that it supports the higher quality vids? Patrick, It's a really good question, and it's a question everyone's asking, and I will answer it the same way I always have. I don't think so. I went out in search of 4K videos. I mean, on this thing, just so I could see if I could tell the damn difference. And I've said it time and time again. You know, I don't really need these. I sort of use these to cover up the fact that I'm always tired, and I try and get people to stop telling me I look high in videos. So I have really good eyesight. So yeah, I'm a poser. I have suspender holsters and fake glasses. I'm the biggest poser ever, except I really do like the National. But the point is, I have really good eyesight, and I can't tell the frickin' difference between 4K and 1080p. We talked a little bit about this with Marquez a couple of episodes ago. We're of differing views. I think he equates this with the gulf between 720p and 1080p. I think that was a much more noticeable shift. I would have a hard time telling the difference in a blind view test.
You should do that. Get some A/B, then cut a window out so you can't see the phone's body. Look at text on a white background, see how it compares.
It's a really good idea, and actually we've been tossing around that idea now for a few episodes, and sooner or later somebody's just going to steal the idea and do it. But we don't have the time because we're reviewing too many devices. But got to go do man on the street stuff. Hey Jules, let's do that. Julian Wang, our intern, we got to talk to him again. Anyway. Listen, let's round up the Prime stuff. I want to make the point before we get one more question in that, Taylor, your question about responsiveness in each hand between the American and the Prime. I had to change my script because after a little bit of use, they were about identical, and then I gave them a fresh boot. And after a fresh boot, that's what you see on the video, on the comparison video, where you see the Prime launching every app about 1 to 1.5 seconds faster. That's only after a boot. I mean, you give it a day of usage, you're not going to get that kind of gulf in performance. So,
well, I was talking more like call quality and all of those kind of things.
Yeah, call quality is the same. The camera is the same. It's great with one small exception in the video quality mode selector. You get one more resolution bump on the Prime. But yeah, all the rest of it is basically like an S5, which is why we didn't do a written review. By the way, we were planning on it, and then I was like, "There's very little different here."
Copy paste.
Right, exactly, and we didn't want to do that. So, but boom, we made a video. So that video is up. BT Dubs. So Patrick, no, I don't think people. If people do, then I think they're making a foolish call because a 1080p video looks great on the screen.
Also, I think it's worth mentioning that video size doesn't scale directly with resolution. A 4K video is going to be bigger than a 1080p. It's not necessarily going to be 1.8 times bigger. Compression really pushes that down, so we're not looking at that much more data to begin with.
Very true. That is a good call. Our final question on this, I believe, is from Gurleen Sethi, who asks, what about a Galaxy S5 Prime LTE-A active duos? Well, if I'm not mistaken, that's probably in development right now.
Do you guys remember when Samsung used to release Plus models too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Galaxy S5 Prime LTE-A active duos Plus.
So
Plus on there.
That's the Galaxy S5 LTE-A. If you are not listening live, if you had a question that we didn't cover here, make sure and check out our full review. Don't worry, we go into a bit more detail there. And if you just have time for a bite-sized bit, then hop on over to the 60-second review. Our second 60 review is up, which is pretty cool. Oh, and I'm sorry, there is one more question. Tiago Serodio asks, does the Samsung Galaxy S5 LTE-A have the region locking that has been plaguing the Samsung flagships? That's a really good question, and I frankly should have been prepared for it, and I'm not. I'm sorry, I don't know. But if someone in the comments would let us know, that would be great. And Tiago, if you're still here, check the comments. There are some knowledgeable people here.
Was
Steven?
it brand new when you opened it? Had it been turned on before?
I think 28 Mobile may have opened the box because I think they used some accessory loading. I'm not sure.
Because I think that was the deal with with the EMEA ones. You had to have a region-specific SIM in for like 15 minutes or so.
Oof. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, check the comments for that. I think that's good stuff. And we were going to have, as we move into the next segment here, folks, thanks for all your questions. We were going to have a new segment this week. One of my favorite ones that I've been waiting to do for a long time. And Taylor, it was going to land right in your lap, brother. This segment, Mr. Quizzical Look, is a segment called Defend Yourself, where we have an editor come on and we say, "You wrote this editorial this week," and I kind of think your view is total crap. Defend yourself. But unfortunately, Taylor, you didn't write anything that I disagreed with this week. You and I have been uncommonly in accordance. What do you have to say to that?
I love you, bro. I don't know. What else am I supposed to say to
So many
that?
warm and fuzzies going on. No, you're not supposed to say anything to that. I just wanted to take a breath. Well, we're not doing that this week. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that because that's going to be a fun one. By the way, that's I'll mention this again when we do it. But what's that?
I said you can't make me love you if I don't.
Oh, that's a good point. It's a good song too. I like it.
Just buy him some Oreo minis, you'll be set.
Yes.
Or York peppermint patties.
No.
Instead,
Oreo
what
minis.
we're doing, this is a segment we've done before. It's one of my favorite ones to do. This is a segment called Tough Spot. This is a segment about tough choices, where we get to pose ridiculous questions to other people on the air with us. And on this installment, this sounds like a dig against Samsung, but we're not returning to the negativity of the earlier in the show. But it's just a question. If you had to carry a Samsung smartphone as your daily driver, it has to be made by Samsung, and you have to carry it for, let's call it a contract period, let's call it 2 years. What would you choose, and how would you make the most of it? Steven, why don't we hear from you first?
My gut is saying Note 3. Because I had the original Note. I really liked it. It was a little big, but the Note 3 is at least making better use of the space. And like we were saying earlier, these are the surprise flagship models now, sort of like the testers for the new features. It's super powerful. I love that multi-window display mode, but I'm not entirely sure I want to be using a phone that large for 2 years. If it were a 5-incher, then I would say yes, especially a 5-incher with a stylus. Oh my God! But I could learn to live with the size. I'm going to say Note 3. That's my vote.
Damn, that's a great answer, and it's a somewhat predictable answer, but I didn't think of it for some reason.
I love the stylus. What can I say?
I love the stylus too, and the stylus combined with multi-window is actually pretty powerful.
Yeah.
That's a good answer, man.
I read this segment in the rundown before we started, and the first thing that popped in my mind, Note 3.
Wow. So you would say the same thing.
Birds of a feather.
Do you have anything to add? I mean, how would you make the most of that, Taylor? Would you leave it stock TouchWiz? Would you throw a custom launcher on it? How would you move into it and make it your own for 2 years?
That's the thing. I always, typically after a short while with the phone, I switch it over to Google Play Edition or CyanogenMod or do something that makes it mostly stock. And you can't do that with the Note because you lose the multi-window feature, you lose the S Pen support, you lose everything that makes the Note the Note. So I would leave TouchWiz on it, but I would pray that it would get the newest version of TouchWiz just to kind of make it a little better. But I would also use it as a skimboard when I go to the beach.
Yes, absolutely. Well,
how about you? What do you think?
You guys have sort of ruined my day.
I have to add, it would be the black one. It would have to be the black Note because the white one has that hard, really kind of
the rubbery thing?
The black one is rubbery. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, the black one definitely feels a lot better. I completely agree. Yeah. The white one just also doesn't look very good, I don't think. See, I forgot the Note 3 existed because I broke the review unit by accident, and then I sort of...
Wait, let me guess here. Round? You love the G Flex.
I do love the G Flex, but I love the G Flex because it's curved in the right direction.
Okay.
The Galaxy S3 Mini.
The round looks like I would hold it up to my head and it would be very uncomfortable. Galaxy S3 Mini, you're a funny man, Taylor. Yeah. No. The Samsung Uproar from 2008. That's what I would pick, certainly. Or no, the Upstage. The Uproar was from 2003.
The one with the Pico projector. That's what you need.
Yeah, the new Galaxy Beam. That's what I would pick. Actually, you're not too far off, Steven. The one I had in mind, and I guess the one I would still pick, though the Note 3 would be the smarter choice, I think I would have to be the contrarian. I would live with a Samsung Galaxy K Zoom. That's what I.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah, because my time with the Zoom and the Zoom 2, what did they call it? The Galaxy S4 Zoom
Mhm.
was actually really enjoyable from a camera perspective. Not only did the physical zoom give me a lot of fun tools to play with and like let me just do crazy things, but it also was a really good camera. Even if you didn't use the zoom thing, it was a good sensor. And I didn't mind the interface so much. The only problem I had with it was that holding it up to my head was absurd, and using it as a phone was nuts because the lens would stick in your finger. It was just stupid. So, but with the K, Samsung seems to have streamlined that somewhat. And it actually looks pretty good, I think. And we've been trying to get a hold of one, guys. You've been asking us to review it. I've gotten a couple of requests on Twitter. And we would love to. We have asked our retail contacts, and we've asked Samsung, and we just can't get a review unit. So
it's just coming to the States now. I saw something about that recently. So
is it? I
maybe
thought there was not even announced for plans to the States.
I saw something about it this week.
Really? Huh.
Look at that now.
Ask me to ask my black market contacts. Why not?
Sorry, Taylor. I neglected to remember your contact in the back of that auto garage on the outskirts of Charlotte who get all those sweet phones.
Here we go. It's on eBay for U.S. residents only. It's on Amazon too. $530 on Amazon.
$530?
So you can get it. Yeah.
Why don't we have one of those?
Just pony up, Michael.
We should just buy one to review it. That's crazy. And then I can use Swappa to get rid of it.
Or you can keep it for 2 years.
Or you can keep it. Hey, listen, it's called Tough Spot.
Put your money where your mouth is.
What I'm actually going to do. That would be the challenge. David, formerly from Timo News, was complaining on Twitter the other day that like everyone always just does like, hey, I'm an Android user on iOS for 2 weeks, and it's like that's the same old crap. That would be a real challenge, like the 2-year challenge.
He's not with Timo News anymore.
No, I said formerly of Timo News.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe you need to pay attention to detail, Martin.
Your voice just makes me fall asleep. Sorry.
No, yeah.
Maybe
know,
because
soothing.
it's that sweet serenading voice. I don't know.
Great dreams too. Before we jump into listener mail, that's the end of Tough Spot. I want to answer a few of these Q&As. Can you guys both see the Q&A panel?
Sort of.
That's rad.
Yeah, I got her.
I'm not exactly sure how it works.
Yeah, there's some pluses, and occasionally one pops to the top when Michael does something.
It's not when I do something. It's when Hangouts decides that the gods of Hangouts decide to do something interesting.
Oh.
There's one. So generally, I like to answer the ones that have been upvoted the most before we move into listener mail, which is very short. We're coming to the end of our podcast, listeners. This one is from. I'm going to have somebody else select the next one. This one is from Dennis K. Hey, Pocketnow team. Why is Samsung the only phone maker, excluding the Moto X, using AMOLED? Seeing the Galaxy S5 LTE-A versus LG G3, the quality looks so much better in terms of brightness, viewing angles, and even battery life. Dennis, you're not wrong. All of those things are better on the Galaxy S5 LTE Active, and I certainly LTE-A Advanced, and I certainly prefer the AMOLED panel for its brightness. You can crank it all the way up to like 700 nit or whatever, and bump it all the way down to 2 nits if you're in a movie theater. It's much more versatile.
Yeah, but if you're comparing it to the G3, I think that's a very bad comparison. Because
Why?
the G3's display is, by default, not very bright. It's a very dim display anyway.
Yeah, so I mean, why is that a bad comparison? I mean, it's a legit comparison. One of them is inferior.
Because it's LCD, and not all LCD displays are that bad. Or
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Like the 1M8 has a really, really nice SLCD3. It's very nice, but it's too bright in dark, like in dark scenarios. So it, by default, like if you're in a theater and you turn it all the way down, it's still way too bright. That's my complaint with LCD, or at least how they've made the 1M8. But I don't know why more manufacturers aren't using AMOLED. It's very efficient. It's great. With blacks and contrast levels, the saturation is a little high, but you can tone that down. I mean, I
Well,
don't know.
maybe there is wisdom to be found in an analytical take on the situation. Stephen, tell me if I'm wrong, but doesn't Samsung make its own Super AMOLED
Yeah,
panels?
exactly. My understanding was that Samsung uses so many of these because they're so tightly integrated with Samsung's whole. I mean, Samsung's a huge multi-company conglomerate. It makes, ships probably and I don't know. Sure, why not?
Large passenger aircraft.
It has its finger in a lot of pies. Is that the expression?
Sure.
Yeah, so it makes these AMO LED displays, so it has to use them somewhere. It can use them on its televisions, and it can use them in its phones. And because it's making them itself, it can do it very efficiently. It's always up in the latest technologies. And this isn't to say that other companies don't do this. LG also fabricates OLED, but Samsung is doing it on the scale that I think not a lot of other companies can compete with, so it can save money by economies of scale. I don't know why other companies don't do it as much, but I think LG could do it more. Other companies could certainly buy them from Samsung and use them in their own devices, but for Samsung, it's easy and it just makes sense. So
And
why
also,
not?
Samsung is able
also
to.
probably cranks up the price for its
I was
competitors.
just going to say,
Yeah.
Samsung is able to decide exactly who it wants to sell those panels to, and if it's a direct competitor like LG, but we have to understand also, I think LG is a bad example because the notion of competition in a business sense between Samsung and LG in particular is really weird. There's some ownership questions there that are not
Compatriots.
resolved. Yeah, it's bizarre. Plus that whole Pantech thing with the software house designing the same software for both of them. It's like, what? I don't know. One of these days I'll go to South Korea and figure all that out. Till
No,
then,
you won't.
You will
remain a
never
mystery.
come
You
back.
shut your face, you both of you.
Such a good time in South Korea.
Dennis, thank you for the question.
Backpack full of phones.
Can you wait until the interview comes out? It's the interview, right?
What interview?
The interview, the movie. Is it the interview or the
Oh yeah.
interrogation? I think it's the interview. Yeah, what you should do is take that, go to the border from South Korea, and toss just physical copies of the DVD over the border.
It's nice knowing you, Michael.
Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
Current affairs. Thank you.
We read the newspaper.
This is an interesting Q&A question from Joey Jangola. The thing is, guys, I'm not an idiot. When you select a question to be answered in Q&A, it puts this
Not an idiot.
it puts this blue background behind it and bolds the text of the name in white, so it actually makes it sort of unreadable. I'm very far away from my screen for a bunch of reasons that involve me sitting in a 4x6 sound booth all day.
You had incredible vision, Michael.
I do
bragging about
have
this.
Damn it! I'm contradicting myself left and right. Why are people still watching? I'm holding an M8 right now. What are your thoughts on outlets like Pocketnow and other tech news and tech reviewers like MKBHD becoming the future of smartphone marketing? I had to answer this question because it's a terrifying thought to me. Joey, I'm not sure I understand the question properly, but are you saying, what do I think of the notion of our reviews being used to sell the phones? Because if that's the case, then I'm fine with being quoted on a review. That's totally fine by a brand. Okay, if I really like your product and you want to quote me on it, I'm totally fine with that. I think that's great. But should reviews be the future of smartphone marketing? No, because then they would all have to be good, and that would be horrible. I mean, it'd be very good for the brands, but it would be horrible for consumers who would read like, "Wow, 9 out of 10 stars on Pocketnow. Like, I got to go get this." This BlackBerry passport. Sorry, Casey.
No.
Taylor.
That's a scary thing to think about.
Good. Yeah, I mean, like, come on. I mean,
it tried hard, so give it a shot.
Right, and I guess the reason I selected this is because it's interesting that anyone would even ask the question, because I think there is a danger of that.
Well, I mean, everybody has been harking just how great the M8 is, and I think that has a lot to do with its success.
Yeah, but everybody did that for the M7 too, and it did not sell nearly as well.
But I think our industry is changing, and I think our readership is changing. because I have random people, not random people on the street all the time, but I have friends saying, hey, I just kind of stumbled across your review of this. Like, I didn't know you did this. It's kind of becoming a little more mainstream. Not, I wouldn't say as much as, like TV advertising or anything, but I don't know. I think what we say and what our colleagues say and even our competitors, I think that's becoming a lot more important. And I don't know. I don't think it's unreasonable to believe that that may happen in the future. That the reviews of a device make or break it.
I can see that.
I think that's totally fine. I just, we sit in a lot of briefings when we do this kind of thing, and sometimes it's with other journalists at other outlets, and I always try and emulate and learn from the ones who ask the hard questions. And that doesn't mean actively being a dick, which I saw someone doing at the Moto X thing, and just like asking all the questions that are just to piss you off. And it's like,
did they work for MTV by any chance?
I don't know, maybe VH1. Now, but it means asking questions that are important to consumers, and questions that consumers don't know enough to ask. I mean, that's partially our function as reviewers and as reporters, those of us who are reporters. But I also saw a lot of non questions or softball questions, and I also just see a lot of kind of buddy stuff. Which,
how does Samsung keep making such great phones all the time?
And there is that danger of, I was listening to an interview on NPR recently with who's the host who's taking over, who's spinning off from the Daily Show. He was Jon Stewart's
John Oliver.
Yes. Yeah, I think it was John Oliver, and he was saying, I think it's really perverse when I walk into a room with and he's talking about like presidents and stuff, and people are all chummy with the press. There shouldn't be that. There should be a guarded distance. There should be some level of awkwardness in the room, because the press is there not only to talk about the great stuff you're doing, but also to be like, this sucks, and here's
we're
why
not on
it
the
sucks.
same side.
I think if what we did were the marketing for phones and tablets, I think I personally would be a lot more critical, which I don't think people could handle that. I'm very critical as it is, but I think it would be a lot more, not important. I don't want to say it's not important what we do now, but I'm saying it would be more imperative to be certain of what I say.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like I am now, I don't write something unless I know what I'm saying and I'm sure of what I'm saying, but I think I would be a lot more critical of different things.
I see what you mean, because you don't want, but see, I feel like it's the other way for me. Like I feel like if I was marketing if I was like just writing like crap to sell a phone, I would let more stuff slide, because that's what you do. You got to sell the thing. It's got to be positive. How do I spin this positively? Whereas right now I'm like, anything that could possibly be an impediment to use, anything that could be a negative, I have to check out. Which is why we have like 15-hour days.
I think the idea of marketing is diametrically opposed to the sort of critical analysis we're doing now. Marketing is about telling you this is what you want because this is what we're marketing. Whereas we're doing more of a review type thing where we're looking at everything out there that we're going to tell you what you want based on what the best thing is. So maybe sites like us could be involved more heavily in the future with those buying decisions, but it's not capital M marketing, because that's not. It doesn't fit with what we do.
No, because you don't want to lose credibility, which is exactly what would happen which is why if we take sponsorships like we have for this, it's like it's not an OEM. It's like the Pocketnow Weekly is brought to you by LG, because then how could you possibly trust our reviews then? So
I think we're reading the question differently though.
We might be.
Yeah, I'm thinking that this guy's asking in terms of like if our reviews made or broke phones, rather than basically we're just advertising for these companies. Our reviews were what sold or did not sell the phone. What we said, what Marquez said, what all of us said. Like if we had just said it's garbage, then it just didn't sell. That's what I read that question as. Versus buy this phone because it's great. Or buy this phone because its camera's awesome. Like, versus, I don't know. I can't really articulate that.
I understand what you're talking about. Yeah. It's a really cool question. Actually, we could talk about it for a long time. And I don't want to talk about it anymore because like I'm going to say something that is stupid or that whatever. We're live. We
can't
can't
edit this podcast now.
I know. So yeah,
I have a question, and it's from a long-time reader, listener, fan. It's from Domenico. I don't know what happens when I click select. But
so click select, and then it'll go ahead and it'll put a timestamp there, which is great.
Okay, because when you click it, I don't see the question like that.
Oh, yeah, that sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Michael.
Hangouts is in beta. Please use caution. Go ahead.
Hey, Michael, is that the Nod Bluetooth ring for a phone or just a monkey ring? I know the answer to this question, but I want you to answer it because you look...
I was wondering about that, too. That's a big old guy you got there.
So, listeners, I'm wearing a ring on my hand that looks a bit like if a 3D printer tried to replicate a championship like Naval Academy boxing ring and got like halfway through it, but the Naval Academy was from 2150 in a dystopian future. So it looks kind of like a Borg implant.
I see that in the light now, yeah.
Yeah. So it's what it is an RFID tag or an NFC tag, I forget which one, embedded in a 3D printed ring that I'm wearing on my ring finger. And it contains the chip that would normally be put in my public transit card called a Charlie card here in Boston. Yeah. So when I get on the bus, I've had a problem with my other cards in my wallet interfering with my Charlie card, so that when I tap my wallet to the thing, it's like, oh, I can't read that, and then I have to get the card out of my wallet. So I got this ring from a company called Sesame Ring, and they're in Cambridge, Massachusetts, down the road from where I am, and they charged me $25, and this is my Charlie card. And when I get on the bus or the train, I go, boom, I just punch the thing, and then it's like, oh, hey, welcome aboard. It's great.
Does it call you Captain? Does it say welcome aboard, Captain?
No. But Cortana calls me Captain anyway, so I don't need anyone else to call me Captain. It's okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, Captain,
good question. I like it. And Taylor, thank you for that. I think our last Q&A is not a Q at all, more like just an A. This is from Mr. Jaffer. What happened to Taylor's hat? They made his videos 100 times better.
Hey. You can't fit the hat with the headphones on, right?
Oh, is that what's going on? Taylor's trying. There we go. Taylor is donning the cap for the last section of our podcast.
Oh,
there we go. See, now you feel at home.
So weird. It feels so weird.
Oh no! Now you look like you always did. See, that's
headlines don't sell pipes. Newsies sell pipes.
Are you? Wait, is it a girlfriend thing? Does she not like the hat?
No. I just got tired of it.
Oh, all right.
That was Brandon's thing. For me, when he hired me, he's like, "Yeah, wear the hat. It's cool." And whenever I didn't wear the hat, literally, if I uploaded a video within 20, 30 seconds of me uploading that video, I'd get a Hangouts message from Brandon. Where's the hat? Wear the hat. Don't wear the hat. Don't not wear the hat next time. Like
you've become Mike Nesmith is what happened here.
So I took the hat off a couple of months ago. Michael said, "Don't ever go without the hat again." So I did it the next time I made a video, and then nobody ever said anything again, except for commenters. So, the hat kind of smells bad.
Well, that happens to hats. You understand?
It was worn a lot. There were 2 of them, and I'm not much of a hat. I wasn't before Pocketnow. I would wear this hat like maybe once a week, if that, and then Brandon like, "It's your thing."
You're going the extra lap in answering this question. You're really letting us know everything.
And my girlfriend said she takes credit for the loss of the hat, but that's sort of not true.
Sort of not true. I see.
Summer sombrero time anyway.
We'll just
because I've been itching to hear the WebOS Bong Bong all week because I actually spent some time on the WebOS Nation forums last night trying to find some of my old posts. I couldn't find them because I fell asleep because I'm a tired guy sometimes. But let's listen to some listener mail. Bong Bong just happened, so now it's time to get to our 2 messages. The first is from Jason Beckles. And Taylor, I think this one's going to be actually custom tailored for you. Jason says, "Hi all, just wanted to say great job with all that is Pocketnow." Thanks, man. My inspiration for the email is Taylor Martin, who tweeted recently that his HTC M8 goes into boot loop when connected via Bluetooth in his car. It's a Bluetooth boot loop. I was considering the M8 until that tweet, so thanks very much, Taylor, for that nugget of info. After my Galaxy S2 used to reboot every 20 minutes in my car, I have to say, it's a deal breaker. My question, though, is regarding reviews. Is there a small chance that there could be a section in reviews for those of us that use phones in our cars? Apologies for the long email. All the best, Jason Beckles. Jason, that's not a long email. You should see some of the ones we get. Awesome.
Don't encourage them.
So, Taylor, what do you think? Would there be a spot for auto compatibility in our reviews going forward?
I don't know. Like, I don't know how that would fit into the whole thing. Like, how we would test, what we would test. And the reason it makes it difficult is because the 1M8 did that with my specific stereo. I've connected it to hundreds of Bluetooth devices, and it's maybe not hundreds, but probably at least a dozen different Bluetooth devices, and it's never boot looped until I connected it to my car. I had that tablet in there, and I had a Bluetooth module that I would connect the phone to. It was fine, but I put my head unit back in my car, and as soon as I paired it, it went into a boot loop.
So it's just a device incompatibility there. Okay, so thank you for clearing
We
that
could
up.
be seeing the same sort of problem with, a portable Bluetooth speaker or something. I don't think this is exclusive to cars. We'd have to test everything out there to have useful.
So much that uses Bluetooth.
Yeah. But there's an interesting fact. That same head unit made the 1M7 last year, this phone right here, go absolutely bonkers.
Really?
So it's something with HTC and that specific head unit that they don't like each other at all.
Can you can you just like form a band so we can call it Head Unit? Because I would go out to see a band called Head Unit.
Head Unit? I'll pass on that one.
Okay. I want to move on to the next one, but I want to answer. I like this broad question though, and I'm going to tell you why, Jason. It's kind of it's not terribly feasible for us. If you've been watching Pocketnow's reviews or reading Pocketnow's reviews, you notice that Taylor and I sort of do the bulk of them, and Joe is a third there, and then Tony, who's doing them right now, and Jaime sometimes too. The thing is, we're all in different cities, but more than that, we all live our lives very differently. I do the most reviews on this site, and I don't own a car. I haven't in years because I have an excellent public transit system. And a car would just make no sense. What's that?
With a sweet ring.
With a sweet ring. I just punch the buses to make them go, and it's a good thing. So that's why I can't do it. In order to make this happen, we would have to do a review, and I would have to ship the phone to Taylor, get him to do the auto portion, and either air that separately or bundle it into the review later. Now, is that feasible? Yes, but unfortunately, just logistically, it increases our shipping costs, but more importantly, we have a lot of these devices on very limited time loans. This has to go back to 28 mobile. This Galaxy S5 LTE-A has to go back to 28 mobile like today. So it's just not really feasible with our setup. If we were all in the same office, all driving sweet rides, that would be sweet. But
the problem, there's also another problem, is that those particular views would only be specific to that head unit in that car and that phone, which is very, very, very narrow. There are thousands of head units and hundreds of cars, and
there's only one true head unit, and they're playing at the Hydrox Arena tonight.
And especially with the standardized systems we're seeing now with iOS and Android Auto, presumably some of these compatibility issues will start going away as everyone's doing things the same way.
Right.
So less of a need for it coming up.
But Jason, that's not to say that it's a bad idea. Certainly we are positioning ourselves to grow as much as we can. So at some point it would be very nice to have a dedicated auto team to do car interface reviews and stuff like that. So we will keep it in mind.
And who knows, with Google, I don't even remember what they're calling it, Android Auto and CarPlay, there's going to have to be some sort of auto coverage on Pocketnow at some point, isn't there?
I imagine there will be, yeah. I'm looking forward to when Zipcar decides to install that so that I can take part. Because otherwise, I ain't buying no car. I don't like holes into which to throw my money for no reason.
Since you like the word head unit so much, you can get a head unit and put it on your bicycle.
Yet you love boats because those are such
kinetic
great
values. Boats are very cost-efficient things, of course.
Yeah.
Well, I think that can be left for another time.
Why don't
we finish with a piece of listener mail from Alif Precoso. First things first, I want to say thank you to you guys for always reporting everything interesting in the mobile space. I'm a big fan of Pocketnow since the Palm days.
Oh, yeah.
And I started listening to the podcast since late last year. Thanks. That's awesome. That's great. That's great to hear. My question for you guys, since when did you get interested in technology, especially mobile technology in particular, and how? Thank you guys for reading this, Alif Precoso. I think this is a really great question to end on.
That implies was there ever a time we weren't interested in technology?
Ooh, it's a good counterpoint. But surely there was a trigger moment you can remember. There was a period in your life where it was accelerated or catapulted.
BlackBerry for me. Hands down, BlackBerry. I got a BlackBerry Curve. Actually, I remember when it just kind of took me over, I was working with a guy. I was working at shoe department. He walked in with a Moto Q, and I'm like, what is this? This is amazing. And 2 days later, I bought one for myself.
So he walked in with a Moto Q, but you opted for a BlackBerry, is that right?
No, I got a Moto Q, and I returned it 2 weeks later, and then upgraded to a BlackBerry. Upgraded, definitely upgraded.
No. I ain't buying what you're selling there. My Moto Q was a delightful device. Don't you talk ill of it. No, but that's cool. Like you returned the Moto Q, you got the BlackBerry, and then you knew, like you knew within a very short amount of time that it fit you. It was what you belonged with. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And it was just a few months later that I got a BlackBerry Curve, and I kept that phone for 2.5, 3 years. And I made themes for it. I did all kinds of stuff with that phone. So
that's really cool.
A lot of history there.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
And now I see something like that, and I'm like, ugh, the passport.
But before then, you were not like you were not into technology at all. Like you just had a phone, and you were like, whatever, it's my phone, I don't care.
Yeah, I had a laptop that I had bought, and it was all right. Like, well, actually, no, I didn't even own a laptop until I was, I think, 16 or 17. So my first computer was a desktop from probably early 2000s, maybe, or late 90s.
Mine was from early 90s. I had a compact Presario.
Oh, man.
It was awesome.
Mine was an HP. I still own it. It's at my apartment. It's an old HP. I think it has like 512 megabytes of RAM.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I had no. Dude, I had 4 megs of RAM on my first machine. Get out of here.
Nice.
Steven, what about you?
This is why it's so hard for me to answer, because, like I was saying earlier, I can't remember a time when I didn't have technology as a big part of my life. My family got an Apple IIgs when I was 5, and I've been surrounded by computers ever since. Mobile took a while to catch on. I think the first mobile thing I got was this really bulky Fujitsu stylistic. It was a 486 monochrome Windows 95 tablet. It was like 3 inches thick. And it was beautiful. Yes. Then a couple years later, I got a Dell Axim X30 something Windows mobile device, which didn't have any cellular connection, but Wikipedia was still very small back then, so I could load the entire thing onto a 2 gig SD card and cheat at bar trivia with it. So that's when I knew that these things were going to be a big part of my life going forward.
You copied all of Wikipedia to a 2 gig SD
Just the text, but yeah. This is like 2000. Was even Wikipedia around there? 4 or 5? I don't know.
Did you like during debates like that were spawned by those facts? You're like, I mean, I could be wrong. Somebody could have updated it in the meantime. I got to go home and plug this in. And
I was Pliny the Elder, not the younger. You guys know what you're talking about.
That's freaking amazing. I am not worthy to sit in the same podcast as you. That level of nerddom. That's sweet.
And now, yet his current computer still only has 512 megabytes of RAM.
6 gig, baby! I upgraded.
Steven's upgrading all over the place,
legit, yo.
That CRT in the background is just like that's just a decoy.
That's my security camera. Kittens living under my porch. I like to spy on.
How is that capacitor cancer?
Oh Lord.
So my answer is that I did not always have the finest technology. When I was a kid, I had like a Commodore 64, and then, I got some desktops and stuff like that. But for mobile, the thing that really propelled me early on was watching, to no one's surprise, Star Trek, because it was the show you watched. And Inspector Gadget to a lesser degree, a couple of those other shows, but really it was Star Trek, where it's like, yeah, you carried around phasers and whatever, but yeah, cool. The handheld beam weapons are always sweet, but also like tricorders and and flip top communicators. I always wanted those as a kid, and I used to like make them out of cardboard and stuff and play around in the woods with them. Like that's the real impetus behind my affection for these things when they got small enough to where it's like, wow, I can just stop like pretending that I own a communicator. Number one, because I'm 17 and probably I should grow up. But also like, hey, I can actually carry this thing and like talk to my friends. And it's like not having like away mission conferences and mission status reports. We're talking about where to find some beer, but it's like.
How are you not a glass explorer?
Yeah, we were gonna be, because Brendan asked us all to pitch the notion of getting glass for Pocketnow, and apparently none of us made a convincing enough statement. So $1,500 is why I'm not a glass explorer. But that was the reason. Then when, the technology really came into its own in my freshman year of college when the last Star Trek series was on the air for a little while, and I had this little tiny flip phone. I'm like, this is awesome. And then, Taylor, I got a BlackBerry 2, and that's how the smartphone thing started. It was great.
Ditch the push-to-talk?
No, I got a BlackBerry with push-to-talk built in.
83...
No, it was well before that. It was the 7520 on Nextel with an extendable antenna.
If it was push-to-talk, it had an eye on the end of it.
No, it did not, because there was no need for that distinction. Nextel had its own, little subset of model numbers. It was the 7520, but it was an IDEN unit because you had an extendable thing and a little push-to-talk button right next to it. I'd be like, blidip, yep, be home soon. What's up?
Did it have a scroll wheel on the side?
Yeah, it had a jog dial and a back button. Nice. It was so old. It was old, an old enough BlackBerry that the backlight didn't automatically turn on with a keystroke. It had a dedicated button to turn on the light.
Oh, right, because they were transflective displays early on, weren't they?
Totally. So you could take them outside, and it's like reading a newspaper. It was awesome.
Yeah, I love those.
Newspaper. Those are cool.
Outside, at least.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, I think it's been 2 hours, so I think we should bring the podcast to a close. I want to thank you both for coming on the air. And Steven, my goodness, man, what a great rig.
Night and day, baby.
Everyone.
About damn time.
Mono price.
Damn right.
Yeah. Serial.
Really well.
We are going to see what we can do about maintaining this this arrangement going forward. Steven, I would love to have you on all the time. Taylor, I put up with your presence, I think, pretty well. And I'm just kidding. I love you both.
It'll be nice to have you on Untethered, too. So
yes. I'm going to be very excited to be on the Untethered podcast. If not this week, then going forward, basically. Taylor and I have struck a cross-licensing agreement, which will be very lucrative for both of us.
Yes.
Do you guys have anything to add before I dump a lot of verbiage on the world?
My back hurts. I'm hungry.
Yeah, my circulation.
And I have a lot of work to do.
I'm also out of Polar Seltzer, and I too have a lot of work to do. And Jules, you have some work to do too. Let's talk about it off the air. Steven, anything to add?
No, just remember, everyone, check back in on Monday for the details for that Xperia Z2 giveaway.
God, it's going to be so cool. Should I show it again? Should I?
Oh, you got to show it.
Anger the listeners one more time.
Well, we still have it in our hands.
Pocketnow, Xperia Z2. It's going to be so much fun. I love giving away phones. This is so cool. D-Brand is a very cool company too.
We should talk to them about getting some like just logos for our laptops or some wall decals or something.
I would agree. Yeah, because I want a big Pocketnow thing behind me on the wall. Like I want a big logo.
I pitched that to Brandon a long time ago, and he's like, "Nah, I don't think it looks good."
Nah, I think that's lame.
I got Pocketnow bumper stickers somewhere.
Yeah, Brandon, you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, Brandon would always he would always bring up the notion again of getting Pocketnow T-shirts to like wear to press events. I'm like, I don't want to do that, man. I don't want to be those guys.
Not unless it's a really, really awesome T-shirt. If it's just like white with the Pocketnow logo, no.
I should say that, like, I think it's the Slash Gear guys. They actually look really good. So, there is a cool way to do it. What?
Yeah. I said their shirts are cool.
Let's get out of here, everyone.
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's get out of here. Everyone, our transition track, which you didn't hear live, but you heard on the downloadable show, is called Radiation. When we use it on the air, I remind you that you can find it on your Nexus 4, Nexus S, or Galaxy Nexus. If you don't have any of those phones, it's a full-length song by a musician called Ali Spagnola, who's hilarious, has millions of fans, and has a lot of fun at her live shows and concerts. You can find her at alispagnola.com and at her YouTube channel, youtube.com/alispags. They're linked in the description on YouTube, and they're in the show notes at Pocketnow. Until next time, that's going to do it for this episode of the Pocketnow Weekly. Be sure to tune in next week for another installment of the Pocketnow Weekly. I should rewrite this script. And send us listener mail to podcast@pocketnow.com. Also, be sure to find us on Twitter. Steven never tweets, but the hollow shell of his social presence exists at Steven Schenk. Taylor is the less relevant but more engaging Guy Kawasaki at Casper Tech, CASPERTEK. And I am full of Star Trek wit and occasional wisdom at Captain Two Phones. It's Captain the number 2 Phones. You can also follow Pocketnow on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Google+, and please leave us a review on iTunes, Xbox Music, Stitcher, and wherever else podcasts are heard if you enjoy the show. If you don't enjoy the show, please stay silent. As always, we thank you so much for listening. You are the best audience a podcaster could ask for, and we'll be back with more mobile tech talk next week.
Later!